kind of above a meh,
Above a meh?
but not full thumbs up. Not full softy thumbs up.
I'm lost. Yo, 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 what's up? We're back for another one on premise at Coppersea. I'm your Whiskey King, here to give you some kingly advice, and this is my jester.
Oh,
Yo, so last time we were here, it was during COVID. Now that things have opened up, we're here to give you a full tour, tasting, and interview with the owner. The concept with Coppersea is all about word of the day, terroir. It's a French term, go look it up. We're representing, we got our patches and pins. And you're going to learn about the concept of farm to glass, small craft distillery. There's a lot of whiskey people out there. This is small batch, that's small batch, but it doesn't really mean much if it's all sourced and it's actually in huge batches. So this is real small batch stuff. So without further ado, let's bring Chris, the owner and master distiller, in. We really appreciate you having us,
guys. The madness is over, and as you can see, people are enjoying themselves here, and we are open Friday, Saturday, Sundays now. You know, trying to let people enjoy the space, enjoy the farm, understand the process a little bit. It's awesome, and enjoy the whiskeys.
Yeah. So since last time we were here, one of our first videos, they moved the tasting room to where the distillation area is now.
Oh, yeah.
I had the Pabloma, a little bit of
What was the correct pronunciation?
It's a variation of the Paloma cocktail.
Pabloma, you know.
We kind of break what we do at Coppersea down into, you can call it 5 major aspects. 4 of those are our technique aspects. So we have what we call our heritage methods. Surrounded. The first major thing is the farm itself and the farms that we work with. So we use 100% Hudson Valley grain for all of our whiskeys. That includes a portion that we grow right here on our own farm. We're not able to grow 100% of the grain that we use for our whiskeys. We wouldn't be able to produce enough grain. We have a 75-acre certified organic farm here that we operate ourselves. But the majority of the grain that we get is from one of 2 or 3 other growers that we work with in the region, all within the Hudson Valley. Okay. We basically, our philosophy is we don't, if it's not on a county touching the Hudson River, then we don't use it. So it's the Hudson River, the Hudson Valley. That's, you know, you can't really have, you know, you were talking about terroir. Yeah. So they also just say provenance. Correct. Just a sort of a simpler term without some of the baggage of terroir, which is very often associated with French winemaking and stuff like that. It's got its own sort of world, but definitely provenance. And you can't really have provenance without the source material, in this case the grain. So we use 100% Hudson Valley grain. When we say we're making Hudson Valley whiskey, it doesn't just mean that we make it in Hudson Valley, it's made of the Hudson Valley, literally. Yep. From our farm or from the farms we're working with, the grain will come into the malt house and granary, which is the building over here, and that's where the first step of our, what we call heritage methods, really starts, and that's malting. So if we want to go over there, I can show you a little bit about malting.
Malt house.
In the high summer, we really kind of back off our malt production. So malting is the process of turning the grain into a fermentable material. Grain by itself, raw grain, is not fermentable. It's got long chain starches. You need to break that down into simple sugars. The natural and traditional process for breaking the grain down into simple sugars is called malting. And that's basically just, in simplest terms, it's sprouting the grain. Basically, you cannot make whiskey without the enzyme that is naturally generated in malt. The majority of American distilleries use what's called industrial enzyme, industrial amylase, industrial fungal amylase. Scotland looked at that trend and they didn't want anything to do with it. So much so that they actually codified into their laws in Scotland that you cannot use that and call it whiskey. So in Scotland, all of the enzyme that affects the ferment, that creates the sugar in the mash, is coming from natural malt. So malt is pivotal to traditional whiskey making and to Scottish whiskey making, end to the whiskey that we make here at Coppersea, because we do not use any industrial enzyme. 100% are using only the malt that we produce ourselves from all of our whiskeys. In the high summer, on a really hot week, if we have a malt piece down, it's very inclined to just get a little out of control. You're growing the plant, so it's creating its roots and it's creating its acrospire, and so these things will all tangle together on the floor. And if you're not tending it and turning it on a consistent basis, it'll basically turn into a carpet. So some of those are corn, some of those are rye, one of those might be barley. And so with the rye and the barley, those are the only two grains that we malt. Basically the process is we put them in these vessels here, which are our steeps, which have a false bottom. We fill them with grain and water. And for about 1 or 2 days, depending on the grain. Rye usually about 1 day. Barley takes about 2 days in the steep. Filling it, draining it, aerating it, force aerating it with just pressurized air to initiate that germination. And then, once we see that the germination started, we drain it off a final time, and we dump the whole mess on the floor. And then, over the course of about 24 hours, we start to flatten out that pile. And it's got all the moisture that it's going to need to get us through the germination stage that we're looking for, to create those, well, not create them, but to release the enzymes into the grain, and that's what's going to start to break down those starches into sugars. After about a week, it's going to be what we call fully modified, which is to say that all of the enzyme is bioavailable now to the grain to grow the plant, but we don't want to actually grow the plant. As soon as it really starts growing the plant, it's now consuming its sugars, because the sugar in that starch ball, or the sugar in that grain that is created, is, the point of it, the reason it's there, is to get that acrospire to grow through the soil line. Okay, and so once the acrospire is out in the sunlight, it doesn't need any of its conserved energy. Now it's got the sunlight for photosynthesis. So that's
getting the education.
The Big Angus Green Malt is a very ancient way of making whiskey. Very, very strange. But basically, we are taking the malt right off the floor, and we're grinding while it's still wet and living grain. And so what you're doing there is you're preserving all these very delicate organic compounds, things like chlorophyll, the sort of grassiness of the grass, that they kind of instantly get removed or blown off when you're kilning the malt. So it preserves a whole other range of flavors.
I've noticed like a hay, almost barnyard flavor.
Exactly, yeah, like silage, almost like a dairy barn kind of a quality to it. So yeah, so when we're done with our kilning process and our malt is all dried down, we're going to, in the case, for example, of the Bonsai Crag straight rye malt, or the Bonsai Bond version of that, the Bonsai Crag, that's 100% rye malt. So that is to say, the entire content of that whiskey's mash is rye, and 100% of that rye was malted on a malt floor. So that would be a whiskey where we would just go right to the mill and we would grind all of that as malt. But for something like our bourbon, for example, or our Excelsior rye, we're using only a small portion of the malt for its enzyme and for the flavors of malt to convert all the starch of otherwise raw grain in the mash. So then we'll mill the grain here at the mill, and then we'll transport it over to the still house.
See that?
Nasty milk.
So we're heading over to the still house. That was also converted to the tasting room. You can come here, get some samps.
This is where we do our mashing and our distillation, all of our fermentation.
Take a look at that view out there. On a nice summer day. Yeah. You should come get it.
These are nominally 400-gallon open wooden fermenters made Doug Fir, made for us by Hall Wolford in Pennsylvania. And the point here is basically to let the whiskey create itself. So we're trying as much as possible to get out of the way of the process. We do a very long fermentation to that end. So the typical industrial distillery fermentation time is 48 hours. Our fermentation time is typically 5 or 6 days.
Oh wow.
We like big, rich flavors. We just want to be. We're not into like little delicate nuances. We want to get hit over the head with a shovel with flavor.
Nice.
And so, so that's what we're trying to accomplish here. And so with the mash, that's where it starts. The basic principle of distillation, of course, is that ethanol evaporates at a lower temperature, it's a lower boiling point than water does. So we're going to we're heating up our mash. Ethanol and water is being forced up and through the line arm into the coil condenser, the worm. What we're doing here is we're stripping down, we're getting all of our oils and all of our ethanol out of the mash. So we're reducing the volume of what we're working with, and we're collecting everything that's going to be in the final whiskey. But it's not fully refined yet. For that, we're going to do our second pass. But one of the other fundamental things that's happening in this step is this direct fire aspect. So this is a huge part. This is really the next part of our what we call heritage methods. Simple, direct fired hot stills.
Heritage, pay attention.
In this case, your fire is a flavor. So there's very few direct fired stills making whiskey left in the world. Certainly very few in the United States.
Every distillery me and him have ever been to, none of them had it.
Yeah,
You're the only one.
incredibly rare.
Yeah.
And that's because it's incredibly hard to do it. All those big distilleries, they all started
Like this.
you know, and the characteristics of, you know, their priorities changed, and the tastes, American tastes, changed.
So it's little subtle nuances like this that make a big difference in the overall flavor of the whiskey. I hope what you're gathering so far is that he does every single step in a unique way to produce a specific result. And that result is, like he calls, heritage method, not just of the Hudson Valley, but basically the Hudson Valley in the glass.
Really being able to pull it out and know that you're tasting Coppersea, that is really the goal. We consider our method of barrel aging to be one of our heritage methods. So it's the last of our heritage methods. And that is low barrel entry proof.
So would it be correct to say, like, some of the things from the barrel are alcohol soluble, some things are water soluble, and that's the mindset behind it?
That's 100% accurate, yeah. So you have water soluble compounds, ethanol soluble compounds, and both of those different reactions happening in the barrel are going to give you very different flavors. There's two different points where the distiller is making decisions about water addition to the whiskey. How much water am I putting into the whiskey that I took out of the barrel to go into the bottle and ultimately go to my customer? The legal lowest you can put it into the bottle in the United States and call it rye or bourbon, for example, is 80 proof. So almost everybody's going into the bottle at the lowest proof that they can. What we do at Coppersea is we go in at 105. We make the choice to put the water into the barrel, where it's going to give you more water soluble, an equal amount of water soluble and ethanol soluble compounds, so you're going to get more range of flavor. But additionally, when we come out of the barrel, we go in at 90 proof as our standard into the bottle. For brewers, it's like you could come in and ask them almost anything. Have you ever thought about putting a cat in the mash? Like, I haven't. Like, well, let's do it. You know, and it's like whatever. It's not going to be good. We'll just throw it away. But
What would you say right now is your best offering? If you had to,
chances are, if I'm just casually having a drink, it's Excelsior Rye. That's really the whiskey that I've always been the most excited to make. You know, really honing in on the recipe that we wanted to develop for our sort of flagship going forward.
I think it's a good segue to go for some tastings. Thank
Look
you.
at and listen.
Thank you very much for your time.
You're very welcome.
Wealth of information.
Thank you, sir.
Appreciate you having us.
You guys are awesome. You guys have been coming up for years.
Thank you.
I appreciate you.
Yes.
you make a product like this, it's hard not to keep coming back.
You guys need to come check it out. All right, so
Yeah.
Brianna's here with us. She's the Coppersea representative. What do we got first?
First, we have our Excelsior Straight Rye. It has a mash bill of 80% rye, 20% malted barley. It is 96 proof.
This is the rye that's not malted, whereas their other rye is malted. You know, so let's see if we
Whoa,
can
this is
taste
my
the
first time
difference.
having this one.
Exactly. Because I thought it was different. and I
Interesting
haven't,
nose on
you
that.
know, I thought, yeah.
Yeah. Yo,
Oh, wow.
it's like a spice bomb nose.
It definitely has some fruit notes to
Yeah,
this.
it's a hint. It's really forward on that rye, like
Got
tons
the
of
rye
rye,
spice and old moldy.
with hints of
kind
fruit.
stuff.
Let's go on it. 2-year rye, blast of flavor.
Yeah, but it doesn't taste like a 2-year, I'll
All
tell
right,
you
so
that much.
I mean, it's not like the absolute best I've had in the whole world, but for $50, it's like it's in the running for like a best bang for your buck.
100%.
We're only distributed in New York and California, but we have online retailers like Astor Wine Electric, Casper's. You can order that through them,
ship
and
it to you there.
they ship nationwide.
So similar to what I got on the nose, it's coming through on the palate. It's like an initial burst of baking spice, followed with some hints of like apple and fruits and stuff. Overall, I'd give it 3 thumbs up, nose, palate, finish. Really easy drinking for 50 bucks. You can't go wrong.
So our next one is our Bonsai Crag rye malt. So this is 100% floor malted rye. It also aged a minimum of 2 years and 96 proof.
Cheers. The other one had a stronger nose, but more so of like that rye spice. This one I'm getting a little bit more going on.
There's something there.
I mean, it's more so maybe hints of the green apple. I think the other one might have more of a burst of flavor.
I'm actually thinking that first. No.
It's close though.
You can taste the malted difference, I feel. It's almost more refined.
This bottle is more subtly nuanced in its flavors.
Yeah.
Where you could pinpoint, it's not just a big initial burst. It's coming at you in waves.
The floor malting definitely brings in some honey and vanilla. It kind of makes that sweetness that like mutes out all those big spices that you're gonna get.
Yeah, this was definitely more spicy. I would agree. This is a little sweeter, but still with a huge backbone of spice. They're both 3 thumbs up across the board for me.
We're moving to the bottled and bonds. So this is also 100% floor malted rye, but it is our bottled and bond version of the Bonsai Crag. Minimum of 4 years, has to be 100 proof from 1 distilling season and by 1 distiller at the distillery.
This is the gentlest nose out of all 3.
Really?
Yeah.
That one definitely opens up more.
Yeah.
Would it oxygenate a little bit?
Reminiscent of this one, like sweetness mixed with rye spice, but more subtle and delicate on the nose.
Spice. Yeah.
That palate and finish is the best though.
Out of all 3, right?
Yeah, hands down. Balance of sweetness mixed with rye spice. Nice long-lasting finish. That kind of Coppersea backbone that we've been noticing in all of them. And that again is from that heritage method style that we were trying to show you guys. Beautiful mouthfeel, nice long-lasting finish. I mean, I don't see any reason to give thumbs down to anything so far, and that would be my favorite at the moment.
We're up to the bottled and bond bourbon. This has a mash bill of 60 corn, 30 rye, and 10% malted barley.
Dude, smell that. It just hit me out of nowhere.
I'm almost getting like a candy corn. Smell, I'll give it a thumbs up. I like it.
I'm gonna go meh. It's a little too sweet for like everyone has their own personal taste. That's why they don't make just one offering. For the palate, it's less sweet on the palate. It's still more balanced, like cotton candy, corn, caramel, vanilla, hints of barrel. But I like the bottle and bond rye better. So for me, my favorite's still the bottle and bond rye.
I would go with the bottle and bond rye too.
This one I'm giving meh on the nose, thumbs up palate, thumbs up finish.
Soft thumbs up on the nose.
Sounds like the nose might need a Viagra.
We'll give it a soft thumbs up on the palate.
It's a little flaccid.
And kind of above a meh on the finish.
Above a meh?
But not full thumbs up. Not full softy thumbs up.
I'm lost.
Softy thumbs up, kind of meh thumbs up.
We're up to the single barrel rye with Pedro Jimenez cherry cask finish.
Yo, PX Sherry.
Oh, really? Cherry,
No, it actually has a
yes.
mash bill of 60% rye, 20% malted rye, and 20% corn. So a little different mash bill.
It's in my top 5.
More balance with rye and some fruit notes plus that PX Sherry nose. Let's go in. It's good. It's almost like not living up to the original one. I'm gonna still give it 3 thumbs up. We're comparing it to that batch 1 that was like off the charts.
It's almost hard to compare because we're already spoiled by batch 1.
So what are we picking? I might still go with the bottle and bond.
So we are up to the single barrel with the Amontillado cask finish.
Amontillado, or as the Jester likes to say,
Amontillado.
or armadillo. Wow.
Woo, woo, woo.
Yeah.
You get that orange with that citrus, right?
That's a nice pour.
Bacon spice, that rye spice is coming in. Then you have that citrus
element.
Orange finish to it,
Yeah.
which really shines through, and it's just like so unique and different from anything.
Yeah.
Paired with a cigar, off the wall.
Clearly the best one so far.
Terran finish. It's a still a single barrel rye with a Terran cask finish.
Very
Wow, really nice nose. These two are, for me, clear nicest noses here. Baking spice, fruits mixed with that
In the background.
Saturn nose. I like it. It's a nice one. Easy 3 thumbs up. Bam. Easy. I'm still gonna give it to this one.
That's
but-
actually very close.
Oof, that's a close second, man.
That's a very close second.
Easy 3 thumbs up.
An armadillo's length. This one won.
Yeah, you know what got it for me? That citrus finish. So for me, similar to what we got on the nose, it's coming through in the palate, but it really
fruit
explodes more on the finish and really finishes nice. You know, it's consistent. Rye spice, Saturn flavors, fruits. All right, so this is the unkiln dried barley. That's 100% barley, is that correct?
100% unkilled barley.
Let's do it.
Yep.
Whoa. Oh my goodness, so different. Barnyard hay mixed with like oceanicness.
I like it. A briny barnyard.
Whoa.
Very.
Getting more sweetness than the brininess on the nose. Banana and honeysuckle coming through as well. This is definitely getting the 3 thumbs up here for uniqueness. I'm sticking with this for my favorite. Amontillado. Yes?
Amontillado.
Shit.
The double L in Spanish is yeah.
If you guys are in the area, come by, say hi, tell the Whiskey King and the Jester sent you. All right, so we appreciate you joining us. Look, if you've made it this far, why don't you just consider subscribing already? Throw some thumbs up and likes, and make sure to follow us on Instagram at
Whiskey King Reviews.
Yeah,
and, you know,
Until next time, thank you for joining us.